From the streets of Chicago to the headlines of the world, you are now tuned into the rhythm of real thought. This is the Daily Mix. 15 minutes of uncut perspective starts right now.
Hey, welcome back to the Daily Mix, y'all. I'm your host, Omari Jahi. And we hear this phrase thrown around in the news and political debates and across social media almost every single day. But where did this line actually come from? And what was it original? What was its purpose? In today's episode of the Daily Mix, we are peeling back the layers of history, law, and modern culture to examine the real meaning behind the walls of separation. Is it designed to protect the government from religion? Or is it actually there to protect your freedoms of faith from the government? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about where we stand today and if this boundary matters now more than ever. Well, every time politics and religion crosses paths, this phrase gets weaponized. But most people are arguing about a concept they haven't even looked into. The exact words, separation of church and state, do not actually appear in the U.S. Constitution. Did y'all know that? This phrase comes from a private letter Thomas Jefferson wrote in 1802 to the Dansbury Baptist Church. So, if it's not explicitly written in the text of the Constitution, why is it a bedrock of our entire legal system? Well, Jefferson wasn't writing just an off-the-cuff email. He was the author of the Declaration of Independence and a primary architect of American religious freedom. He used the metaphor of a wall of separation as an official executive interpretation to explain exactly what the First Amendment was designed to do. Keep the government out of the church's business and keep the church out of the government's business. Well, I got a problem with that, but we're going to keep it moving. We'll talk about that a little later on down the line. But the common misconception that separation means people of faith have to completely hide their values and morals when they enter public service or vote. We can't expect people to leave their morality at the door, can we? But we can expect the institutions of government to remain neutral. So let me make sure that you all are understanding what's being said here. If you are a religious, spiritual, or moral individual and find yourself employed as a public servant of any kind, like the mayor, alderman, a teacher, a principal, law enforcement, any of those things, you cannot, I repeat, you cannot call out or expose immoral behavior because there is a wall between church and state. Now, morality, or maybe I should say morally, I have a problem with that. With the fact that this wall that was created does not seem to protect the church from the government, but it was created to protect the government from the morals of the church. That's what it seems like to me. The men and women who run and operate our government take issue with morality and righteousness. Now, I'm not saying all of them do. I'm not saying all. I'm saying the people that, maybe I should say it like this. You can run to be an alderman or run to be this, that, and another and have very good intentions. But once you get into the office, things change when you get in there because there's a system you have to fit into. And if you don't fit into that, you go the way of Harold Washington. And that's a whole other podcast, okay? So now, let's look at how this wall has affected the school system and our children. Removing a spiritual baseline from school has stripped the educational system of a foundational moral compass. So one would be led to believe that the state doesn't operate with a moral compass if it created the wall to separate itself from individuals who represent a moral compass. That just makes common sense to me. I mean, maybe that's just me. But for generations, public schools integrated basic non-denominational faith practices like reading the Psalms or saying a universal morning prayer to install value like accountability to a higher power, humility, and absolute right versus wrong mentality, understanding the difference between the two. Now, critics argue that by scrubbing all religious references to avoid establishing a religious or religion, schools have replaced spiritual values with the idea that truth and morals change depending on the situation. I'm going to say that again. This is their understanding that morals and values change based on the situation. Maybe believe this lack of a spiritual foundation correlates directly with the modern rise in behavioral issues, a lack of respect of authority, and a decline in youth mental well-being. While the law is meant to stop schools from forcing religions on students, administrators often panic and actually suppress the students' own constitutional rights. Because school districts are terrified of being sued by civil liberty groups, they often overregulate. But now, what does that mean? I just want us to be clear. This means that the school board would rather completely ban or censor something legal that the children have the legal right to do than risk an expensive headline grabbing lawsuit from a civil liberties group like the ACLU or the American United for separation of church and state. From the perspective of educators on the ground, this over-regulation manifests in three specific ways. The law says that the school system cannot, I repeat, cannot force religion on students, but individual students has every right to express their faith voluntarily. However, teachers say administrators rarely understand that difference. What the law allows for students to do is that a student reading the Bible at recess, a group of athletes playing, quietly by the bleachers before a game, they can do that. This is what the law allows. Or students writing about Jesus for a Who is Our Hero essay. These are allowed, right? But because of fear of being sued, those freedoms are also being restricted. Mostly, not totally, but mostly they're being restricted. This creates a chilling effect where students are told they cannot pray over their lunches, bring a Bible to school for personal reading, or write about their faith in a creative writing assignment. Even though the Supreme Court has explicitly stated that students do not share their constitutional right to freedom of speech or expression at the schoolhouse gate, school boards routinely overstep, leaving religion and religious students feeling isolated, silenced, or penalized for their personal beliefs. You cannot fully understand world history, American history, literature, or art without understanding religion. The tension is happening right now in culture, whether it's debates over school prayer, religious symbols on government properties, or legislative policies heavily driven by specific theological beliefs. Most people are taught that the wall of separation is there to protect civilians from religion. But flipping that script to suggest that the state built the wall to protect their own immoral self from the morality and accountability of the church changes the entire dynamic. It suggests that a corrupt or compromised government simply doesn't want a moral mirror held up to its actions. Now, as we close out today's Daily Mix, I want to leave you with a completely different way to look at this wall of separation. It is clear to me that our governing body, I should say, has put into place a long-term plan to guard itself from moral persecution and the decline of public morality at the same time. If we look at the law of corporal punishment being taken away from parents, but remaining as an option with police officers. Your parents can't whoop you or punish you for things you do wrong, but the police can beat the hell out of you and beat you down for doing wrong in the streets. Hey, just don't make sense to me, but it goes along with the immoral way of doing things, right? If we look at the law created to incarcerate people of color, currently this federal law operates on a 18-to-1 weight ratio. This means that 18 times more powder cocaine, you have to have, I want to make sure we understand, you have to have 18 times more powder cocaine to trigger the same mandatory minimum prison sentence as for crack cocaine. So that means if my crack cocaine weighs 5 pounds that I have, that for a person with powder cocaine to receive the same penalty that I received, they would have to have 18 times more than that 5 pounds in order to get it. Now you tell me what that's saying. Just think about it. Throughout history, from the prophets of the old to the civil rights leaders of the 80s, the 60s, the 80s, Lord. It has always been the moral conviction of the church that stood up and said to the government, what are you doing to the poor? What are you doing to the broken? What are you doing to the dark? And what are you doing in the dark, I should say? That's wrong. Faith has historically been the ultimate mirror of accountability, demanding justice and higher morality from those in power. So when the institution of the state insists on a strict, impenetrable wall, maybe it's not acting out of noble desire for neutrality, but maybe it's acting out of self-preservation. Now, if you appreciate, my lips are just bumbling today. If you appreciate us pulling back the layers and taking these conversations deeper, do me a huge favor, y'all. Hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel right now. Let's keep building this community together. I'm Amari Jahi, and this has been the Daily Mix. Now I see you tomorrow on the next mix, y'all. Peace. We out of here.
Take care of your mind, take care of your health, and we'll be back in the mix tomorrow at 12 noon. Till then, peace out.